What's motherfucking goody, y'all? This is Keem and I'm back with my tea of the day. Happy New Year, everyone. Let's get into some things. There's been a lot going on, but I feel like today we're about to get into a hard-hitting topic. A topic that definitely needs to be talked about. Is always left under the rug, especially in the black community, but it affects us all. So, let's really get into mental health and the stigma of mental health. But let's get into mental illnesses. So, of course, there's several. But before we get into that, I just want to say we all need to get checked out. We all should evaluate ourselves. We all should do self and mental diagnosis of ourselves. Really look at ourselves and evaluate ourselves to figure out if this to be us, if we can fall into this line, and how we can really get checked and get the adequate help needed. I'll say that to say this because especially within these times, these last 2 going on 3 years of this pandemic, Ms. Rona brought several of her family members, and they just decided not to leave yet. So here we are, and this is definitely heightening a lot of the crime, a lot of the suicide, a lot of the mental illness and the mental disorder that is happening rampantly now. Like, especially like New York, I've heard that there's homeless people pushing people off into the train tracks. It's just a lot of stuff that's being unchecked. And we really need to get these people help. And let's start going through some of these disorders to see where we lie. If you could be part of the spectrum and how we can get you help. So, of course, clinical depression. So, let's say mental health disorder or illness characterized by persistently depressed mood or loss of interest in activities, causing significant impatience in daily life. Possible causes include a combination of biological, psychological, and social sources of distress. Increasingly, research suggests these factors may cause change in brain function, including altered activity of certain neural circuits in the brain. It's common. It's very common. And more than 3 million cases in the U.S. per year. And that's just the U.S. statistics. This is very treatable by medical professionals. It's medium. Resolved within months. It requires a medical diagnosis. And lab tests and or imaging are really required. We've all dealt with depression within our lives, within our 20s, within our teens, whatever state of life, we've definitely dealt with depression. So we have to make sure that hopefully we all make it out of depression, because a lot of people unfortunately do not, and they fall into this category of clinical depression. Especially it's very common, so you may not even understand or know that you're clinically depressed. Like, you just might think it's something that you're just going through right now, this period of your time of life, and it's just growing and festering and leaving a bad stitch. So we have to make sure that it doesn't get there, and if it does get there, the steps that we have to take to treat it, to keep it at bay. Anxiety disorder is a mental health disorder characterized by feeling of worry, anxiety, or fear that are strong enough to interfere with one's daily activities. Examples of anxiety disorder include panic attacks, obsessive compulsive disorder, and post-trauma stress disorder. Very common, 1 in 3 million U.S. cases per year. Treatable by a medical professional, usually self-diagnosed. Lab tests or imaging are not required. So this you can kind of self-diagnose yourself, but of course it's treatable by a medical professional, whether that's meds or whether that is a combination of meds and a psychologist. Symptoms include stress that's out of proportion to the impact of the event, and ability to set aside a worry and restlessness. A lot of people are anxious over projects, over deadlines, over many different things. But we just have to check ourselves and make sure that we're not leading to it being compulsive, where it's not really distracting our daily life. Bipolar disorder. A disorder associated with episodes of mood swings ranging from depressive lows to manic highs. The exact cause of bipolar disorder isn't known, but is a combination of genetics, environment, and altered brain structure. And chemistry may play a role. Very common, 1 in 3 million US cases per year. Treatment can help, but this condition cannot be cured. But just because it can't be cured doesn't mean that we shouldn't get this checked out. Like, we're all about mental health. We have to start getting ourselves checked out. Chronic can last for years or life. Long requires a medical diagnosis. Manic episodes may include symptoms such as high energy, reduced need for sleep, and loss of touch with reality. Depressive episodes may include symptoms such as low energy, no motivation, a loss of interest in daily activities. Mood episodes last days to months at a time. May also be associated with suicidal thoughts. With bipolar disorder, there are 4 steps. There are 4 types of bipolar disorder. So, the first type is bipolar 1, which is the common one. Bipolar 2 is characterized by the shifting between the less severe hypomanic episodes and the depressive episodes. The third bipolar is cyclic disorder, and this is where you can function. So this is a very functionable part of the bipolar spectrum, but you can have some difficulties. But mostly you can still function with this disorder if you have that one. And the fourth one is unspecified bipolar disorder. Of course, there's several other ones that we need to get into. Dementia, a group of thinking and social symptoms that interfere with daily functioning. Dementia is usually common within the older, the elders, and we have to really pay attention to our parents when we're around them, and anyone who's within an age range and an age group, to see if they could be dealing with or suffering with dementia. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADD. And that is a chronic condition including attention difficulty, hyperactivity, and impulsiveness. And this is usually common, at least from what I've seen, within the younger crowd. The younger crowd definitely deals with a lot of ADD issues, and a lot of it has went and is going unchecked. And that's not good. We need to I feel like once we put a label, or once we put a label, or we put a name to something, then we can help it. We can soothe it. We can know what it is. We can figure out. We can do our research to help these individuals who needs to get there and who needs that specific help. But if there's no conversations, if there's no help, how is that person really surviving? We want survivors. We don't just want a victim. We don't just want a number or a person who's just dealing. We want someone who dealt with and survived this. Because these are all survivable things. These are all things that happen, but these are things that once talked about and once diagnosed and worked through can be survived. The next one is schizophrenia, a disorder that affects a person's ability to think, feel, and behave clearly. So this individual, unfortunately, maybe is out of control. And it's not their fault. But we have to get that person some help. If we know someone who's out of control, we have to get them help. We have to get them diagnosed, we have to get them help. Obsessive compulsive disorder. Excessive thoughts, obsessions that lead to repetitive behaviors, compulsion. This, for me, I feel like this is definitely within people who may always want to be in control, always need to be in control. Whether it's friendships, relationships, siblings, like whatever that looks like. And they just always have to be someone in control. And then it becomes obsessive over a person, over a thing. Then unfortunately you can fall under this, and we can get you the help that's needed. Of course, autism, very, very important, very, very livable, but very emotional to be around, but very eye-opening to be around. Autism is a serious developmental disorder that impairs the ability to communicate and interact. So these individuals, unfortunately, cannot talk to you or really interact with you to tell you that they need help, to tell you that this is that and the third. So this is a disorder that kind of is written for you. Like, this is just what you're born into, or whatever that looks like. So this is a disorder that automatically gets the help that they need, and that's wonderful. But there's a lot of others that are just not quite where we need it to be. Post-traumatic stress disorder is a disorder in which a person has difficulty recovering after experiencing or witnessing a terrifying event. And we can all fall into this. This could really be our life. Everyone, if not yet, will unfortunately deal with something traumatic in their life. Something that changes them, shifts them, something that molds them, something that makes them who they are. Whether it is negatively or whether it has negatively or positively impacted your life. We all had a post-traumatic stress. We all dealt with stress differently. We all had a traumatic situation happen. But unfortunately, some people are unable to fully cope with it and deal with it and leave it at bay, leave it where it is, and not let it affect their daily emotions or daily actions or daily lives. And that's unfortunate, and I feel like a lot of this can definitely fall into loss of parents at an early age, and a significant other at an early age. Unfortunately, like, being sexually assaulted is a big issue that I can definitely just picture people living with this have dealt with that. And that's unfortunate. I've cold-heartedly apologize because these activities, these situations made you who you were, but unfortunately you wasn't able to cope with or deal with the things that you need that could have been dealt with. And we have to get you the help that you need so that you can get better. Because each situation is a life lesson. But some traumas we can't fully deal with. Some traumas we can't express, we can't come out of. And I wholeheartedly hope and wish and pray and just I'm just hoping for the best. I hope that we can help pull you out with conversations like these, with counseling, with medication, with whatever help that is needed. Go for it, because you deserve it. You deserve to be at peace. You deserve to come to a resolution, to a resolve. You deserve that. And we're here to give you that. I had to write down postpartum. And postpartum is a depression that occurs after childbirth, and that is not talked about enough. A lot of women on a daily basis, because children are born daily, at a rapid rate, are dealing with postpartum depression, and it's not talked about enough. Like, I barely hear this conversation, and that's a problem, because a lot of women suffer in silence, thinking that it's just them. And no, this is a whole depression. This is something that just, it happens to a lot of women who can't fully explain it, who can't come to a resolve or come to a resolution of, why do I feel like this after having a kid? Like, this is supposed to be the happiest moments of my life, and I'm depressed as fuck about having this child, or just depressed about being pregnant, or depressed about a lot of things throughout this experience in my life. Those who develop postpartum depression are greater risk of developing major depression later on in life. This is very common, more than 3 million U.S. cases. That's just in the U.S., guys. Treatable by a medical professional. It's medium term, so resolved within months. It requires a medical diagnosis, because you would not know. This you can't pick up. You can't point out of a lineup. This you have these feelings, you have these weird thoughts, you'll have all of these things, but you will never know that you're dealing with postpartum. And I just really thank the women and mothers who got help when they noticed that there was something off after giving childbirth. Like, there was something just not right. Like, they just wasn't happy, but they just did not know why. And they really went to seek help. Unfortunately, a lot of us don't have that luxury to just go to the doctor and get health care and to get especially psychologists and just counseling and get proper diagnosis the way we need to, depending on our skin color. And with that, again, it's a suicide. Because a lot of these disorders, a lot of these mental issues that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, unfortunately, can end in suicide if unchecked. If unchecked, can unfortunately lead to suicide. And it's unfortunate, but it goes hand in hand. There's no gray area, there's no if and but about it. It just usually goes hand in hand. If it's unchecked and if it's undealt with, if it's unmedicated, if it's you're not seeking help from counseling, you're just going day to day feeling like this with no answer, then usually it may result in suicide. And suicide is the 10th leading cause of death, specifically in the US. So who knows what those numbers look like around the world? In 2019, 47,511 Americans died by suicide. In 2019, 1.38 million suicide attempts. Do you know how many people that is? 1.38 million people attempted suicide in 2019. That is fucking crazy. That is outrageous. Wow. And unfortunately, 47,511 people succeeded with that attempt. Let that sink in. Because we went unchecked. We didn't have the people behind us to help us get checked out. We didn't have the strength to get checked out. And no one was in our corner. We just felt alone. We felt bad. We felt depressed. We had manic episodes. We had highs and lows. We had all of these things happening to us. We went through a traumatic episode, a traumatic scenario, a traumatic experience. And we cannot recover from that. And we kept on going unheard. We kept on going unhelped, unchecked. And we unfortunately attempted or we killed ourselves. Yeah. Rates are higher, from what they're saying. Rates are higher in middle-aged white men. In 2019, men died by suicide 3.63 times as often as women. If you're having suicidal thoughts, if you're dealing with any of these things and you're considering suicide as an option, we've all been there. I've been there. I've thought about suicide for years because I hated myself for years. But I'm happy I did what I needed to do. I did the homework. I live with a mantra now. If it's not making you better, leave it. If you're looking for love, you have to love yourself first. A lot of people get into a relationship, a lot of people deal with a lot of things because they're missing self-love. But I feel like for certain situations, not all, in certain situations where you really fix that love aspect for yourself and you really fall in love with yourself, the sky's the limit. But if you are having suicidal thoughts, there's a hotline. Your number is 1-800-273-8255. Again, 1-800-273-8255. That is a hotline to get you help. That is a hotline for no judgment zone conversations that needs to be had to help save your life and hopefully save many others. Because suicide is not the answer. Let's get ourselves checked. Let's do the homework and do the due diligence and love ourselves enough to get checked out, to get that extra help, to get those extra eyes and ears for us. Black people are more often diagnosed with schizophrenia and less with mood disorders than our white counterparts. It makes sense. Black communities the black community exists at the intersection of racism, classism, and health inequality. Our mental health needs are often unchecked and mostly unfulfilled. Issues related to insecurities and the associated experience, such as violence and criminal injustice, further serve to compound the mental health disparities of the Black community. We deal with so much things in our community. We have to get ourselves checked out. There's racism, classism, just inequalities all over the board. We're not even looked at as Americans. That shit is crazy. We're not even looked at as Americans. We're just looked at as African Americans. So, yeah, that's another topic for another day. But we don't have the access to all of these accessible things that we should have the access to because of our backgrounds, because of what we was born into, because of our lack of income, our lack of the know-how, the lack of people wanting to help us, the lack of the situation that we're put in. Because let's be clear, Black people are more incarcerated than any other race, and that dampers the Black home, which can affect their mental state. That's not talked about enough. The Black person, the Black man, who is the Black man or woman who's killed by the police. A post-traumatic stress disorder. Unchecked. And we've clearly been seeing that for years. And it's been heightened because of social media. Unchecked. How are we helping these individuals who deal with losses that big, that explosive? What help are we giving them? Or do we expect them to just get help themselves? Well, the whole world is in their fucking backyard. The whole world is in their living room. But we just expect them to get help by themselves. When they didn't put themselves in that situation was brought upon them. Make it make sense. The Black community, just like every other community, deserves these things that are necessities. We all need to be checked out. But our Black community oftentimes are left out of the conversation with mental health. One, because we don't have the access to the drugs, to the counseling, to the high-paid doctorate to get checked out. A lot of us are scared to talk about us being bipolar, us being depressed in a depressive manner for months, for years. We need to start having these conversations to get better. We need these conversations to help move the needle to an even playing field. We need to have this conversation so we can have more access to what we all need to cure these disorders, these illnesses. And to never be afraid for having it. Stand in your fucking truth. And never apologize for this disorder. For any disorder, for anything. Never apologize for being who you are. For living in the circumstances that you're living in. But you have to know what it is. Know the facts behind it. Talk to people. Get help. Get treatment. And live the best life you can live. With the circumstances or with whatever illness you're dealing with. But please don't let it affect your mental state where you have to commit suicide. Because oftentimes, we feel like that's the only option. Because once we kill ourselves, we'll stop the hurting, we'll stop bleeding, we'll stop hurting ourselves. We'll stop the hatred. everything around us would just stop. We feel like that would be the answer, and I'm sorry, but it's not. Your life is so much precious. I just want you to realize that. So please today, if not for one thing, if not for anything, please tell a friend to tell a friend. Let's get ourselves help. Let's get ourselves checked in. Let's get ourselves evaluated, diagnosed, or whatever, wherever you land on any of these mental health illnesses. Because it's an illness. And we need to get checked out. Thank you. This was Kimi. This was episode 16. Thresh E. Oh, no, Thresh? No. Kajose, I think. And this was mental health. This was a mental health check-in. And we're definitely going to be doing that here. We need to, because this is a important subject, important topic that needs to be talked about. It's not talked about enough. We need to give our people our flowers. We need to give our people our time and our ear. We really need to be kind to one another. Especially now. We need to be kind to one another. And for the homeless individual and for the people who are dealing with these mental illnesses and that's being unchecked, we're here for you. And I know some of your actions are for crying for help. And we may not realize that they are crying for help. Well, we are here, we are present, and we're ready to work with you to get you the help that you need. And if you're feeling suicidal, the hotline number again is 1-800-273-8255. Thank you. This is Kimi with the Tease Day channel. We are all over all podcasting platforms now. And I got some things in the works. It's going to be something dropping in February. I'm not going to say what. And it's going to be part 2 of that dropping in June. That will 9 times out of 10 be live. Guys. So, watch out for that. And let's look out for some more conversation that needs to be had. Some more injustices or just dues or just conversations that need to be talked about. Whether it's between music, of course pop culture, of course just the daily lives of the news, and the unfortunate deaths and stuff that's been going on lately. Just keep watching out and definitely support me as much as you can. Like, follow, subscribe, let your friend, let your family member, tell everyone about my channel. Help me help you. Have this wonderful conversation that needs to be had. Laters. What's goody? I just wanted to end off by saying thank you, but a moment of silence for Ian King. This is what really made me do this episode. I knew it was time to have this conversation, but his passing, his untimely suicide, and what makes this conversation even more prevalent. Unfortunately, he committed suicide yesterday. So, best regards and a lot of condolences to Regina King and her family during this troubling time, where mental health is a big issue that we have to get under wraps. We have to keep at bay. We have to.